KNR Radio, according to you, 21 minutes now after 9 a.m. Let's have a look at those news items that, some of them are so cringeworthy. In and around some of the places that we like to consider home, as Umzansi would be home for all of us as well. But woo, child, a lot of things happening in different areas, which anyway, let's go and check out what it is that I'm talking about. More accusations have been leveled against notorious GBV abuser Yaku Swart this week after he allegedly committed another assault against a woman in the Western Cape. The convicted wife beater went viral this week after footage of his attacks was shared online. Swart, who also refers to himself as Hooligan, inexplicably avoided incarceration this week after a court sentenced him to 3-year suspended prison term, and he was also fined 20,000 rand as crucial video evidence was deemed inadmissible by the judge. The outrage has been felt nationwide. The courts appointed to Yaku Swart's pleas for remorse as a factor which presented him being sent to jail. But all that seemed very hard to swallow after another set of allegations were leveled against him last weekend. Importantly, there is a case number registered to the police for the latest assault. When being sentenced on Tuesday, the bench quashed the prosecution's evidence of a more recent assault that, despite one woman from Stellenbosch, who we are keeping anonymous, opening a case against Yaku Swart earlier this month. The wife beater allegedly knelt on his ex-partner's shoulders, attempted to suffocate her, then lashed out at those who were trying to intervene. Make sure to stay away from Yaku Swart as possible. He had his knees on his his ex-girlfriend's shoulders so that she couldn't move. One hand on her mouth and another closing her nose to suffocate. He hit me in my face, busting my lip open. Please share the news and spread. A criminal case was made against him by the police last night. A woman from Stellenbosch has accused Yaku Swart of attacking an ex-girlfriend of his. Yo. Chap, what's going on? Behind the country's alarming unemployment statistics, 34.5% are millions of people who have had to wake up every day and wonder where their next meal comes from. Balungile Koesha, who's 38 years old, from here in the Eastern Cape, is one of those who face the devastating reality. The mother of two holds a higher certificate in banking and is currently studying towards a Bachelor of Business Administration and Human Settlements Management from UNISA with the aid of NSFAS. She spent 9 years working as a product or service advisor in one of South Africa's biggest banks, then went on to working in housing delivery. She became unemployed at the beginning of 2019. She says, I lived in Gauteng with my kids at the time and I could not afford to pay rent. I could not just pack up and leave because my son was in matric. So I got a roommate to split the fee. Eventually, I had no choice but to leave my son behind and go back home with my daughter, who was 11, says Koesha. Her son was left with some family members in the province. After he matriculated, he went back to join Koesha in the Eastern Cape. The family now lives in a small RDP house. A typical day in Koesha's life is uneventful and involves her waking up to assist her walk her 13-year-old daughter to school. Recently, there was a child who was raped in the area. She was assaulted by an e-hailing driver who stalked her when she was coming from school. So I have to chaperone my kid for her safety, she explains. After she returns to the house, she cleans and starts work on her assignments. Koesha then waits for her daughter to come home and prepares supper. The hardest part of unemployment, she says, is rejection. The sense of rejection goes deeper than just finding a job. When I experience it, I tend to take it personally, internalize it, and start questioning myself and my abilities. She adds that it has made her doubt herself, even when she is used to being a confident woman, and that amount of rejection she gets is too much to handle and is now affecting her children. She says, I get depressed some days. My kids have to now tiptoe around my moods. They do all they can to not add to my stress when the children should just be children. These are the realities. We're just telling you exactly how it is. Singer and reality TV star Kelly Khumalo once again faced the wrath of social media users who called for her show to be canned after the second docket emerged during the Senzo Meyiwa trial on the Wednesday, the 8th of June, implicating her and others in the 2014 murder of the football star. Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who is representing one of the 5 men accused in murdering Meyiwa, told the court that a non-disclosure of the second docket, which names Kelly Longwe Twala, Gladness Kumalo, Zandile Kumalo, Tumelo Madlala, Mthokozisi Twala, and Maggie Piri, presented by the Director of Public Prosecutions, should be charged with murder and defeating the ends of justice. She said that prior non-disclosure in the second docket prejudiced her client and asked for the matter to be postponed so she could study the document. On Thursday, the 9th of June, ENCA reported that Kelly's lawyer, Magdalene Munsami, said she will write to the NPA to get more information on the second docket issued on Wednesday. Meanwhile, on Twitter, infuriated tweets call for Kelly to be cancelled as they believe she pulled the trigger. On Monday, the 6th June, Kelly released an explosive teaser ahead of some of the 3 of her reality shows, Life with Kelly Kumalo. Or season 3 of her reality show, my mistake. In the trailer, it seems Kelly is addressing the death of former Bafana Bafana captain and hit back at the continuous hate she's been receiving. Y'all gonna know about me. This is my truth. This is my truth, she said. She added, they hate that I did not die that night. Meyiwa, who was dating Kelly at the time, was gunned down at the singer's home in Vosloorus. Death taxes and EFF members being physically ejected from Parliament. There was pandemonium during a sitting at the National Assembly in Cape Town this afternoon yesterday after several red berets caused an almighty amount of disruption. The disgruntled politicians weren't ready to let Cyril Ramaphosa deliver his speech on the presidency's budget vote for 2022. Those present in the chamber routinely raised points of order before hurling insults towards the head of state and interrupting others. The altercations pushed the start time of the president's speech back, and the House Speaker struggled to regain control on Thursday, resorting to drastic measures. Security was called in to remove the EFF from the seats in Parliament. Parliamentary guards whisked away a handful of those in red overalls, with the majority of the EFF only tuning in via video link. The cameras may have been turned off, but there was nothing inactive about their microphones. A young woman is living a movie life, and unfortunately isn't much of a fairy tale. In fact, it's a bit of a horror. According to Bree Duval from Australia, her life took a turn for the worse when she fell headfirst in a parking lot after a night of drinking with her friends and ended up in a coma. She remained comatose after the fall, and finally 4 weeks later she had a very rude awakening thanks to her fiancé. For many couples, love is waiting for you and your partner by sticking by their side through sickness and in health, right? Wrong. One woman found this out the hard way after she had a horrible accident that saw her being airlifted to the emergency room and laying in a coma for weeks. When she finally woke up, she decided to reach out to her partner of 4 years, but got a shocking response. She says, and I quote, "So I open my phone, going to message him, and a message pops up from this woman. He says that I'm now with the partner's name. I have moved him out. He's now living with me and my son. Please do not contact him," she said, describing the other woman's message. "I have not heard from him since I have been in hospital. He completely and utterly left me in the dust, so I don't even have closure as to why this happened," added Duval, who remained hospitalized for 5 months receiving treatment. What made matters worse for Bree was that all of this was going on during the peak of COVID-19 pandemic, and so she wasn't allowed any visitors from friends or family who could at least comfort her. It's been very hard mentally. There's definitely bits of PTSD from everything that has happened. I'm just trying to sort through my emotions, going through the accident and then having to have a letdown of her relationship. Shame, man. You can't even go to a coma in peace these days without somebody disturbing your romantic life. Hey! Exactly 9:30 now. The man accused of setting Parliament on fire, Zandile Mafe, appeared in Cape Town Magistrates Court on Thursday, the 9th of June, where he was served with an indictment and substantial summary of the facts by the state. Senior State Advocate Mervyn Meningo told the court that the outstanding damage and arson reports had been received, along with the authorization certificate from the National Director of Public Prosecutions, which is required to charge an individual with terrorism. Mafe was served with an indictment that alleges he is guilty of housebreaking with the intent to commit arson and arson, terrorism, alternatively discharging or detonating an explosive or lethal device, and theft. The matter was transferred to the Western Cape High Court, and the next court appearance, a pre-trial conference, is expected on the 12th of August 2022. The indictment largely repeats that what the state had previously alleged, that Mafe allegedly set Parliament alight because of his deeply political, ideological, and philosophical beliefs and intense resentment for the South African government. The summary of substantial facts lays down that the state believes what happened before, during, after, and the burning of Parliament in chronological order. Hey, they're really after this guy, but we'll have to see how this case will pan out. Parliament has a very special place in any country's mind and mental space, obviously. So this would not come as a shock why the state is pursuing this so aggressively. 15 people were killed in a crash in Pretoria. Emergency services have confirmed that 15 have been killed in a crash near Bundu in Ga-Rankuwa, Pretoria. Charles Mabasa from the Tshwane EMD said 26 others were injured, with 7 in critical condition. The cause of the collision is still under investigation. It is a developing story, and as we find out more, we will definitely update you. A teenager was arrested in her pajamas, charged in connection with the mob murder of Abongile Mafalala. A teenager from Parkwood who is expected to appear in Wynberg Magistrates Court this morning. The 19-year-old woman who was in pajamas when arrested by police will be formally charged with the murder of Abongile Mafalala, who was viciously and publicly murdered by the mob justice attack in Parkwood last year. Mafalala, 31, from Dunoon, was publicly murdered after false allegations of alleged kidnapping arose in the area. Hundreds of residents came out, beat and stoned Mafalala, and then set him and his vehicle on fire, a Toyota Avanza, alight in the open field next to the M5. Social media was flooded with graphic videos of Mafalala being beaten and set alight. It was later revealed that Mafalala was innocent and the reports of an alleged kidnapping were fake. Mafalala was the victim of a crime and was robbed by gangsters moments before his murder. At the time, police said they would be arresting suspects based on video footage obtained. The office can confirm that the 19-year-old female was arrested on Tuesday, the 7th of June, and she was charged for murder and will make her first appearance today in the Wynberg court. It is believed the woman incited the attack on Mafalala, and widely spread video footage of his brutal death led to his demise. On Monday, 5 other people were also charged in Mafalala's murder. The suspects, Nathan Lehman, Yuvan Nawat, Bradley Murphy, Carlton Williams, and Ashwin Tiflon, were charged with murder, robbery, and aggravating circumstances and malicious damage to property. They are expected back in the same court on next week, Monday. Finally, and further afield in our continent of Africa, Belgium's King Philippe on Wednesday expressed his greatest, deepest regrets for his nation's abuses in its former colony of the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC. During a speech on his first official trip to the country, he said that Belgian colonial rule had been unjustifiable and racist. His speech came 2 years after he made similar comments on the 60th anniversary of Congo's independence. Then he went further than any of his predecessors, also in condemning acts of violence and cruelty during Belgian colonial rule. Belgium has faced a reckoning over its colonial past, particularly around the commemoration of Congo's 60th anniversary of the independence in 2020. That year, Belgium took down a statue of King Leopold II, who plundered Congo during his 1865 to 1909 reign and forced many of its people into slavery to extract resources for his own profit. The early years of Leopold laid claim to the African country are especially infamous for killings, forced labor, and other forms of brutality. Some experts estimate that as many as 10 million Congolese died. After Leopold's claim or ownership of Congo ended in 1908, he handed it over to the Belgian state, which continued to rule the colony until the African nation became independent in 1960.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's see what all the...
From the states of Africa, we've got you covered.